The executive has also helped tell us that the Senate has received, or not just the Senate now, the members of the National Assembly have received a cut in pay. Now, how true that is, we don't know, because we don't know what they're receiving.
Why don't you put them on the air like you put me on the air? Let David Mark come and sit down here and tell you how much each senator earns in total. Let's verify it. Bring the speaker as well. Let him come and tell us how much they pay themselves and why. Justify it. I agree with you. Everybody should take part in this belt tightening. It shouldn't be. It should be fuel subsidy. It should be all wastage. We should fight corruption. What do we do now on corruption? You talk about ghost workers that were discovered. PHCN. They refuse to go for testing, to be sure that they all exist. Okay, when we discovered ghost workers, who was consuming the money? Why hasn't that person been chased by EFCC? Why is it that EFCC only wants to chase the odd high-profile case? One governor, one member of the House of Assembly. I think that's my alarm.
Okay, but at the moment now, looking at this whole scenario where government has gone ahead to make this announcement, we have Professor Tome here who also talked about the model that needs to be put in place before the government eventually carries out a proper deregulation, as it were, because if it's not properly done, we'll be talking about the same thing in years to come. But at the moment, tell us, do you agree with the government's position now, that decision which they have announced on the 1st, as it were, in spite of the environmental factors?
Yes, I agree with the government's decision. Let me explain why. I said we have a budget cycle that starts January 1. I agree that that money should go to Tigawa, an extra 14 billion. I agree that it should go to Kano, an extra 20 billion plus, and so on and so forth. Let the lion's share of the money be dispersed to the rightful owners. That must be done from January 1. But I also agree that the work of that committee from Russian and all those people, action should take place immediately, so that there are savings from the budget earmarked to all those useless agencies and so on in Abuja. The people just sit down doing nothing, but basically finishing the nation's resources. Likewise, corruption too, the fight on it. We now have a new boss in EFCC, Lamode. People say it's good, it's 10. Let him tell us who are the ghost workers, who was behind that scam. Who are the people who steal pensions in Abuja?
I've been thinking of the target you talked about now, how we really can target the really poor in the society, how they can benefit from all of this, trying to see if we can liken it to the meal vouchers, especially the Americans get. So how can they do that, knowing full well we still have that monster called corruption lurking around, like the meal voucher, and how can we also identify the poor in our society to get a fuel voucher?
One thing is sure. If you cannot target something at the poor, don't waste it on the rich. Do you agree? The present system, the rich man consumes the lion's share of it because he has the access, he has the most vehicles. My point is that a fuel voucher system should be left to each state, even an LGA. Years ago, I was a bank CEO. We had fuel vouchers. There were also luncheon vouchers. We gave the junior staff a luncheon voucher to aid them in buying their lunch. They will go to the restaurant, they used to pay. We had the same for fuel vouchers. We gave it to the poor. I have nothing wrong with Lagos State, River State giving fuel vouchers. It's for them to decide who they target, who they give it to. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not against all subsidies. I'm in favor of subsidies that are targeted only at the poor and the needy. Take, for instance, power. Power is an excellent example. You can give a subsidy on power and ensure that only the poor enjoy it. You know why? The subsidy is you pay a very little amount if you consume small power, little amount of power. As soon as you have major appliances, your rate jumps up because it assumes you're a rich man. That kind of subsidy can be sustained. In this year's budget, there's a provision for subsidy for the poor in power. In fuel, like I told you earlier, the big defect, the big problem is that the richest person enjoys the subsidy the most, and that must stop.
Okay, because at the moment, sorry, Mark, because what people are saying is that yes, well, they get your point, but the thing is, how do you tell the man out there that, yeah, government needs to adjust, we all need to adjust, subsidy is good for us, when he goes home, there's no power, and he knows he has to go back there and spend how much to buy fuel. And now they're saying, listen, yes, it may be good, but the point is, we don't trust government. We've not seen the consistency in the policies which you talked about.
Sorry, I mentioned the issue of equity and distribution. I used Jigawa, the poorest state in Nigeria. So because you don't trust, I'm from Jigawa, let's imagine if I was from Jigawa, because I don't trust government, should I allow a situation where the lion's share of the money goes to the upper class in Lagos, middle class in Lagos? I'm saying no. Bring my share to Jigawa. Let me sit down with my governor and decide how we use our own share in Jigawa and what it's used for. Federal government can only discuss their own portion. how to dispense their own portion. But let each state, each LGA get his own share and decide how to use it. So even for the man who doesn't trust government, that's the more reason why he should demand that right now the 1.1 trillion or 1.3 is disbursed through NNPC and Kumi does not trust. He's saying, bring my share home. I can hold my LGA chairman to account. I can hold my governor to account. I have a bigger say in the slice of that money.
Yeah, but what they're also saying is that, yes, economics is about people. The government says this is intended for the people to make sure they benefit from it. But at the moment, they haven't seen anything that the government has done to ensure that it cushions the effect economically.
How can the governor of the government do anything when he has no resources?
The ones they had before.
Look,
what about those?
I use them as an example. Nigeria.
Sorry, what about those with resources? What have they done?
Yes, but let's go one step further. That is why you must give more resources to those who don't have resources. My point is that Nigeria has 36 states. With all due respect, only about 10 are viable. But the rest of them, by the little money they get, by the time they pay their overhead, there's nothing left. There's no development. And my point is that federal government has no business dispensing this 1.1 trillion. It's not theirs to dispense. The states have their portion, give it to them. LGS, give it to them. Then let you and I argue with the federal government about its own share. The federal government has no business telling the government of trying to dispense the portion that belongs to your state government. I'm amazed and disappointed that ANPP they should be the ones clamoring that give you its own share, for goodness sake. We trust our own governor more than you. But what you people are arguing is that leave the money of 1.1 trillion in the hands of Desani and NNPC instead. Why should you argue that? Why should Jekawa argue that? Or Kebi?
With the new perspective you brought is about, bringing out the resources or getting back these resources and giving it to those who truly need it.
Those who own it first.
Those who
federal, state, LGA in these proportions. I give the figures. Federal government share 470 billion, states 400 billion plus, LGA 200 billion plus. Give them their share first.
Seems like maybe not entirely new perspective, in the sense that some people have already made this kind of arguments before. But the thing is, how come we cannot exactly get what the thrust of this particular fuel subsidy removal policy is? Because this is another argument. Some people say, it's to deregulate the downstream sector. Some people say, it's to stop feeding the fat cats in the industry. What exactly is this policy about?
The policy should begin, it's about fiscal viability. It's about giving unto Caesar what is Caesar's. My point is that 1.1 trillion, 1.3 trillion does not belong to the federal government. I think it's even illegal for them to be the ones to dispense it. They first give each person his own share. Then also we can render account better, because I can hold my LGA chairman to tell me what he's doing with his own share. I can't hold the federal government. It's very difficult. And my point is that we should each be demanding that share. And also, please, I repeat, I prefer a fuel voucher arrangement for any state that wants to have a subsidy. Let it define its own poor citizens and give them fuel vouchers for kerosene, for anything.
In all fairness to Lagos State, State is a metropolitan city. It has people from all states living here. In fact, it's arguably...
I live here also.
Exactly.
I also enjoy the subsidy.
Exactly.
I have 4 cars. And I'm saying, hang on a second.
I would ask a question. Are you from Lagos State?
I'm from River State.
Exactly.
And I'm saying give River State its own share, because I have no business in Lagos here consuming the share of the poor in River State. I'm saying give them their own share to dispense themselves.
Arguably, there are poor people here from different states here in Lagos.
The majority of the poor, let me give figures, unemployment figures in Nigeria. Unemployment in Lagos is 8%. The national average is 20%. I will tell you states that unemployment is about 40%.
Isn't that because the middle class...
So my point is that Lagos is even better off in terms of poverty, because the unemployment rate here is low.
Isn't that because the rich and the middle class in this state have been empowered to employ those who would have otherwise been poor in many other states?
It's also because the poor from all other states have been converging to Lagos, where there are more jobs, because their areas have no resources whatsoever. And I'm saying if you begin to send resources back to those poor states, which is theirs rightfully, but right now being dispensed through Lagos.
We've got some responses coming through. Dion says, yes, they hear what you say, but they don't want more committees to be set up by the federal governments. We talked about that yesterday also. They want the costs of running governments to cut right now, that government should cut the cost of running governance.
I am all for that.
They want to be involved in the process. Government cannot ask them to make sacrifices where they haven't demonstrated, they haven't led the way, so they can't remove the subsidy as it were, having not made their own adjustment, but asking the people to make that adjustment.
I think I've said it repeatedly. We should make all the adjustments together, plus fight.
But they've taken only one first. They've done this one first.
Sorry, they're doing all. They can only take place at different speeds. If you bring a bucket that has 7 points of leakage and there's a gaping hole in the middle, which one do you seal first? Is it not the biggest hole that consumes 1.3 trillion? You seal first? I agree with you. There's wasted. Police Commission, they said they embezzled 1 billion. Stop that one. But how many 1 billions add up to 1.3 trillion? Do you know that already in Benin Republic? That's the other thing about the subsidy. Apart from being consumed by Lagos and Lagosians, all our neighboring countries to consume it. Any filling station within, if you go around Nigeria, I've been to Kebbi, I've been to Adamawa, I've been everywhere. All the filling stations are built in the bush, some within 100 miles of the border, just to get allocation of fuel. They never sell fuel there. They take it across the border and sell at the world market price. Nobody is stupid. Do you know that already? I got reports yesterday, Benin Republic has a fuel crisis. You know why? They have no fuel right now. Guess where the fuel came from before? From Nigeria. People were buying at 65 and going there to sell at 170. Now the price in Lagos at 140. Nobody's taking fuel again to Benin Republic. So all of a sudden Benin Republic now has to spend its own foreign exchange to import fuel. Because all these years, Benin, Cameroon, Niger, all of them have been consuming Nigerian fuel. So now they're facing a crisis. We have been squandering our foreign exchange, bringing in petrol, spending 1.3 trillion, only to have it siphoned across borders to our neighbors. But now they have it to import themselves.